Dan Mandis here, and it's July 22nd, and want to welcome on into the program Congressman Scott Desjardins. Of course, so much going on, Congressman. I don't know where to start, but just let's go ahead and start with the biggest news story of the day, which is Joe Biden deciding he is going to, well, the party decided for him that he would not be running for re-election. Not real surprising. A lot of folks calling this a coup. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about this for 2 years, and I didn't think he'd ever make it to the starting line, and so it's not a surprise to anybody. But, if Biden is not running because he can't win, then the Democrats can't say another word about the end of democracy, since they've once again proved that they'll do anything inside or outside the boundary of the rules to try to win. In this case, they're not accepting the results of their own election. So, in a way, it's a bloodless clue. Now, if Biden is not running because of failing health, then he's admitting that he's not capable of fulfilling the role as president for the remainder of this term and should be resigning the office immediately.
A lot of folks are talking about how the Republicans are demanding that the Democrats invoke the 25th Amendment, get that whole conversation started. I know that you have friends on the other side of the aisle. Is there any real conversation of that taking place now, given the fact that, the president has, 5 months, I think, left in office, 6 months left in office?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of things that come into play here. One, at some point, he's got to pardon Hunter Biden, and he vowed that he wouldn't do that, but I don't know what the Vegas odds are on that right now, but I would guess it's about 100% chance that he's going to. Now, in theory, if he did step down and let Kamala become president, that's something they would not want to do until after November 5th. If she loses, it's easy to do it, to put a stain on the Democratic Party. But, the bottom line is, if Biden is incapable of running a presidential campaign, he's certainly not capable of the daily grind of being the president of the United States. And I think we've all known for a long time he's not the one pulling the strings. He's not the one making the decisions. Don't know that he ever really was. If you remember, he was basically put into this seat in 2020 after everyone else was polling so terribly against President Trump that this was their choice. Clyburn in South Carolina told people there to vote for Biden, even though he not even showed up in New Hampshire and Iowa, basically, in terms of finishing. And so they said, Joe, we will make you our nominee, but you will follow a Green New Deal agenda. You'll follow these policies, and you will have Kamala Harris as your running mate. So the Democratic Party is really interesting in the fact that they just choose their candidates. And now, once again, I'm still intrigued by the fact that we had a presidential debate before either candidate was chosen at their conventions. Trump had not been chosen. Biden had not been nominated yet. I don't remember in the history, at least in my lifetime, a presidential debate before the convention. So I think Joe Biden thought that he could handle it. I think his handlers or his opposition, deep state, whatever you want to call it, knew that he'd probably fail. So they set up this debate to let him prove it. And he proved that he was incapable. So now, no surprise, he stepped down. I think the same thing's going to happen with Kamala Harris. They're kind of rallying behind her, but we'll see how she polls. It's really odd that they've taken the American voter out of this process, they being Schumer, Pelosi, Obama. And they're going to see how Kamala Harris is perceived by the American people over the next couple of weeks before their convention. Don't be surprised if they tank her as well, because I don't think that she's going to present herself well. She certainly hasn't for the last 3.5 years. No,
it is interesting, and you kind of mentioned this, but when the primary was going on, one of the things that you and I talked about, and I've been talking about this for quite some time, is the fact that the Democrats really didn't want anyone of substance running against Joe Biden during the primary. And so RFK Jr., basically, they sued to keep him off the ballots in many states. They wouldn't allow any kind of a debate between Joe Biden or anyone. And so they sort of it seems to me, installed him for the a second term. And now they're taking that away. And so now the question is, will the Democrats around the country, what will they say about this? I mean, you would think that it's like their vote is being taken away from them. If you're a Democrat, it's like the party elite they're installing these candidates, and they're installing the president, the vice president, now maybe the next president as well. It's really interesting. I want to play for you an audio piece. This is CBS News talking about what Frank Biden, the brother of Joe Biden, said.
We asked him whether he feels that his brother's overall health and vitality played a major role in this decision, and he says, in my humble opinion, absolutely. So a member of the president's family now confirming that the president's health was indeed a major factor in this decision, and calling his brother a hero for making the decision to pass the torch to Kamala Harris.
One of the things I find interesting, Congressman Desjardins, is that you do have Kamala Harris and the Democrats. They've all been obviously caught in a lie, and they've been in on this duping of the American people, attempted duping of the American people for years now.
Right. So, therein lies the problem. Biden has got to go on TV or come out sometime this week and tell the people why he is not running for a second term. LBJ, 50, 60 years ago, did a similar thing. He was not incapable of doing the job. He was in a tough spot, Vietnam War, so on and so forth. And, he told the people clearly what his intentions were. Biden is going to have to do the same thing. Is he going to go on TV and say, I'm too old, my health is failing? Because that's what he said. If doctors told him he was not capable of running, he would consider stepping down, or if the Almighty himself told him that. So we're going to find out from Joe Biden what the reason is. If he says it's because of his health or his mental decline, then certainly he needs to step down, resign the office, turn it over to Kamala Harris, and let that process play out. If he says it's because he can't win, then, as you said, it's a bloodless coup. The party is going to choose for the Democrats their nominee, much like they essentially did in 2020, even though he did, go through the process of the primary, but only after they got rid of all the competition.
One of the things I find interesting is that the precedent will then now be set within the Democrat Party that if you're not doing well in the polling, they will find someone else. You'll be the victim of a coup, because that is what's happening here. Either they have to admit that this is a coup, or they have to admit that the president does not have the capacity to serve. It seems like those really are the only two scenarios that are playing out here. Congressman, one last thing on Biden stepping down, because we could go on all day with this. Obama hasn't come out and endorsed Kamala Harris. We could talk about the polling. A lot of polling shows that Kamala Harris isn't going to do any better than Donald Trump. The donors, though, are donating millions of dollars in droves. I could go on and on with all of this. But one of the things that you have to look at is the fact that for the Democrats, nobody's going to run against Kamala. At least that's what it's looking like. Originally, it looked like Joe Manchin was going to drop his name in the hat, drop his name in the ring or whatever. And now it looks like he is not going to do that. The reporting in the last 30 minutes or so is that Joe Manchin has said, no, I will not be running for the nomination for the Democrats. And it's almost like nobody wants to run against Kamala Harris, which it seems like this is the same ploy they used in the primary when they wouldn't let anyone run against Joe Biden. I don't know what else there is to say about all of this. Do you have any final thoughts on what happens at the convention?
Yeah, well, the people to watch right now is Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, and certainly Barack Obama. Until Kamala gets their blessing, I don't think that Kamala is necessarily going to be the nominee. They're watching to see how she is received by the American public. They're going to watch a series of polls. If it doesn't look like she can do much better, expect somebody else to be put in her place. And unless these guys, the people I mentioned, come out this week and endorse Kamala Harris, I would not be shocked to see someone else. In 2020, the only person I feared out of that entire field with Elizabeth Warren and others was Joe Biden. Joe Biden looked like the only person that could give Trump a race, and lo and behold, that's who they put in. My biggest fear is Michelle Obama. Some people, I think Vivek Ramaswamy mentioned that last night, but that's somebody that I've been fearing for months just because of the name, just because of the backing. I think that she would ignite the Democratic base and they could get behind her. She's not necessarily qualified. She's never held public office, but I'm watching for that. I fear that. But if these people I mentioned come out and get behind Kamala Harris, then she's probably going to be the nominee.
Alejandro Mayorkas, Homeland Security Secretary, is now naming an independent panel to review the Trump assassination. The Washington Post reporting that the Secret Service did not give the security or the number of agents or the devices that the Trump campaign was asking for. And so that's a story that has gone back and forth. This is Ronnie Jackson. Of course, you know Ronnie Jackson. He's a congressman. And this is what he said about the Secret Service chief, Kimberly Cheatle.
She has a lot to answer for. She lied to me in the meeting. I asked her specifically if they had backed down or denied resources for the president at any point, and she said no. And now we're finding out that that is true. I also talked to President Trump's detail months and months ago, and I asked them if they were doing okay, and they told me they were having trouble getting the resources they needed. And they felt at the time that it was politically motivated. And so we're going to get the answers to this. And she needs, if she could do the right thing, she would step away right now and she would resign and try to do the right thing. But she's going one way or the other.
Well, she so far has decided that she will not resign. Do you trust an independent panel? I'm going to air quote that independent panel. Do you trust an independent panel from Alejandro Mayorkas, or does there have to be a congressional investigation?
Absolutely not. Mayorkas should be gone, number one. He should have been gone a long time ago. We're learning that people in the Biden administration do not get held accountable. And I think the most important thing that Cheatle said regarding the Secret Service is they have a no-fail mission. Well, guess what? They failed. And if that's your number one priority, then you failed as a director and you need to go. So she seems to think it's immune. She's absolutely fine with this independent Security Council doing the investigation picked by Mayorkas. Of course she is. If we have an independent council picked not by them, then I would have more faith in it. But I don't think Congress is going to sit back and say, okay, that's fine. We'll see what Mayorkas' team comes up with. Clearly they failed. I'm not to the point of conspiracy theory. I don't think anybody was driving this kid. I think it was a troubled kid. But the fact that he was able to do what he did shows that the Secret Service failed. They were not paying attention or giving former President Trump priority. And, but for the grace of God, he's still here. I mean, by all rights, he would have been assassinated that day, if not for just kind of dumb luck and God's intervention. So they failed in their mission. It's going to come out that they weren't giving him the resources. They were directing him to Joe Biden, to Kamala Harris, to Joe Biden. And, it was a monumental failure. So, there's no other, I guess, no other option than for Cheatle to go away. Mayorkas needs to go away, and hopefully a lot of this cabinet that Biden put together will be held accountable and at the very least be gone in 5-6 months.